Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're okay. Um, I hope that you have been doing your tests. If you haven't, don't worry. I have an album coming for you from the first five chapters of the book. You're gonna have to make an album of the five chapters of the book, because you couldn't make the tests on time. So if you didn't, don't worry. There's always time to fix it. I'll let you know. I'm gonna publish a list very soon because we're almost over. I hope that everybody passes the class, but I don't think that everybody will because not everybody's working. But thank you for all the ones, sorry, that are working. Um, Crazy here. Okay. Sorry that I'm in a cab. It's been a long day. Okay, so in the last week you were supposed to read chapter 5 until section 5. It's super interesting. I didn't know that Ken had such good powers and Alice was super clever with the plan. What Terry found wasn't really something that very important, I would say, but it was pretty nice. Okay, so let's start on chapter 5, section 6, okay? Gloria had come prepared to sneak out of her room in attempt to find a substantial stash of the lab's drugs. But when she touched the doorknob and turned it, she found it locked. Even as the fire alarm screeched in panicked abandon, it is not a real fire, she told herself, because Ken was producing this illusion, and counted how long it took them to remember to comfort her. 10 minutes. 10 minutes in which she sat in her exam room coiling tighter and tighter with unease. By the time she easily fooled Dr. Green arrived, she half expected them to all get marched into a line in she didn't know what. He'd only informed her that there was not actual fire. She hadn't bothered to question the locked door. And at last she hadn't come out of the day entirely empty-handed. She already decided to keep her wits about her, and so she pocketed her dose of acid and faked the high. She felt paranoid enough as it was. Dr. Green had noticed nothing amiss and had put her through the recitation paces. He really thought he was making some grand progress in showing how interrogation under the influence of drugs could be effective. So as you can remember, Gloria's uh, experiments are based on they give her some drugs and then they try to see how do these drugs work in her body and if she would speak when she's told to keep a secret. So she had one dose to show for her efforts. Of course, none of them could say anything on the drive. Conversation had to wait, but by silent agreement they lingered in their cars in the parking lot until the van drove off. Then led them in reconvent under the thin glow of security lamps. First off, can we all give the man of the hour some applause? All of them were very proud on Ken because Ken was able to fool everybody with his magic or illusion or psychokinesis or whatever you want to call it. He said that he was a psychic, but nobody believed in him. But this time they could believe because he really did something amazing. Um, Ken took off half a bow, folding at the waist, and they applauded, but no one's heart was in it. Gloria thought that they all wanted to know if it had been worth the risk. Well, Alice rocked back and forth from her toes to her wheels, vibrating with nerves. Gloria sympathized. Did you find anything? I did, Terry said, but I still don't know what it means. What was it? Alice pressed. I think they're working with children, more than just Callie, but I can't tell what kind of experiments. Whatever they expected, it wasn't what Gloria's hand went to her. Oh, it wasn't that. Gloria's hand went to her stomach, which felt sick. She remembered being locked in that room. She didn't trust anyone there with children. So they were experimenting with children like Ali, but they are in university, they're in college already, so they can stand a lot of the experiments that these people are doing, but she doesn't think that little children would. Folders, like you said, for several kids in some experiments called Indigo. I didn't have time to see if there were detailed notes in them, just a few progress notations. Terry states this with grim determination. I saw Collie again too, but I wasn't able to talk to her. She looked healthy, but it seems clear there is something going on. Well, Find out what it is, Alice said, her voice vibrating with the emotion in her promise. Terry asked Gloria, "How do you do?" Gloria focused on Alice. "Can you teach me how to pick a lock?" Alice nodded, frowning. "Of course. The kind at the lab?" Gloria felt something relaxed at that. "They had me locked in when Ken's alarm went off." "Wow," Ken said. "It wasn't the best thing to discover," Gloria said, "so I wasn't able to get a jackpot, but I palmed my dose. I'll try to get it next week." So they put a lock, they locked her in their room so she wouldn't leave. So there's something very interesting of what Gloria's powers have that they don't want her to let go. "So are we going back?" Terry asked. "We don't have a choice," Gloria said. "Nothing's changed." "But at least we know where to look for evidence," Terry said, putting a spin on it. "Alice code worked. I'm not giving up." "None of us are," Gloria said. And then he says a bad word and you're not supposed to say, "I'm sorry." "Remember you picked this book." Ken says as a swipe of headlights glanced over them. A band was making a circle in the dark. Gloria couldn't be sure. Was it the Hawkins band coming back? "We'd better go. Be safe, everyone," Terry said. Alice hesitated. "Are you all right?" she asked Terry. "Just fine. Don't worry about me." Alice nodded in a way that made Gloria curious about why she'd asked. Dr. Brenner entered Section 7. Dr. Brenner entered the surveillance suite at 8:30 that night. The rows of listening stations were filled with busy staffers. The employee who called his office to summon him, as directed, got up and waited for Brenner to take his seat. "They've been talking for about 5 minutes," the man said. He slid his headphones over to Dr. Brenner's ear, something Brenner could have done himself. He heard a woman's voice he didn't know asking questions he wasn't interested in, but he'd wait. Aid had been a tremendous sulk when he'd visited her room after the others left. Aid is the little girl, remember? A disconcerting day in which he'd been set his way and that way. He didn't understand it all yet, but his gut told him something was off. His own subject, Terry Ives, had been found wandering the halls from where he'd left her. She followed someone into a secure wing, far too close to Callie for comfort. The man Ken had reported experienced a seizure, but with no evident effects afterward to indicate he had. He obviously was lying. Brenner had gotten used to the startling mind of the mechanic Townie, but today even she had made demands. The only non-problematic subject was the biologist, and the quiet delivery of information described during her session unsettled him too. The biologist is Alice, the one with the plan. She told him a lot of lies in Section 5. He put in a request to monitor closely the phone lines at Ives' dorm and the boyfriend's house this evening. There'd been something about her innocent act when she returned to him he didn't quite buy. Now he'd been summoned to hear a conversation with her sister in Larrabee. So they're spying on Terry because he doesn't believe in her anymore. "Terry, you hardly said a word and you called me. What's wrong? Is it Andrew? When does he find out?" "Tomorrow," Terry said. I wish he thought it through. A slight crackle on the line. He did. It mattered to him to take a stand. "I don't see why. He should keep his nose clean." "Oh, because in the sections before you were supposed to read alone, you know what happens to Andrew." "I don't see why. He should keep his nose clean and be glad he's here. He's not going to end the war by wearing a mask into the cafeteria." Terry's annoyance came through in her reply. "Maybe not, but it's better than doing nothing." "That's where we disagree," the sister sighed. "You can't afford to be selfish, either of you." He'd heard it all he needed. He removed the earphones and handed them back at the stood. "Thank you. Keep listening to her," he paused. "What's the boyfriend's name?" "Andy Rick." "Sir, I think we finally found it." A new staffer had come in to hail him. The room adjoining the phone monitoring station housed the building video security feeds, going through every hour of footage of Aid's room since their arrival and logging all visitors had proved time-consuming, even with the 3 men on it. He stopped in front of a pause monitor which showed him another piece that went with the conversation he just heard. Teresa Ives sitting at the table with Aid. She wore a gown, so she managed to slip away. "When?" he asked. "Well, who is Teresa? Is it Terry?" "I think it's Terry." When? He asked. 2 weeks. Yeah, it's Terry. 2 weeks ago, he underestimated her. He needed to get her back under control. The best way to do that was to distract her, give her bigger problems. He knew everything she cared about most because she told him. The solution was obvious. Good work, man, he said, and went back upstairs to his office. Once there, he called his contact in D.C., the man who could make things happen, Dr. Brenner, like men who could make things happen. I have a favor to ask. It's about a young man named Andrew Rick. Ooh. So he is going to punish Terry, or Teresa, because I didn't know her name was Teresa. Um, so he saw the video when she visited 8, and he's not very happy with it. So now he's gonna make something to Andrew to make up for it. Terry sat on the sofa waiting for Andrew. They waited with her. She rushed straight over her last class on edge of what the verdict would be. It'll be all right, Dave said for the third time. They just gave me a slap on the wrist. Dave's parents have gotten an attorney friend of the family to contract the university on the boy's behalf. They managed to talk away the criminal charges, and everyone hoped any serious and everyone and everyone hoped any serious ones from the school. An engaged student body that undertakes acts of civil disobedience should be encouraged in this day and age. The argument had gone. So they were trying to defend Andrew so he wouldn't go to jail. Terry imagined that Dave's parents had probably also written a big check to the school. Andrew's family hadn't been thrilled to find him in trouble again. They did not support civil disobedience, thought they adored Andrew enough to forgive him anything. They had money, but not the kind of money they've had been born into. The third friend, Michael, had also gotten past. So Terry didn't know why she was this nervous. Andrew would be fine. That made the most sense. Why didn't her roiling stomach believe it? Maybe it was the argument she had with Becky the night before. Andrew opened the front door and came in. He went over to the kitchen to grab a beer. He returned and sat, then reclined so his head was on Terry's lap. He looked up at her. "Hi," he said. "This is a good view." She almost smiled. "Thank you, but you're killing us. What happened?" A blink. Andrew sat up and popped the top of the beer, took a sip. "I'm out." Terry felt numb. "Wait, what? Out? They kick you out?" Dave was shaking, his head shocked. "Please tell me you're joking." Her hands were shaking and she made an effort to steal them. "I wish I was," Andrew shrugged. "I knew this could happen. I'll accept the consequences." The consequences! "The draft lottery is coming up next week." Terry knew she wasn't helping by saying this, but the words were out before she could stop them. She saw Andrew in soldier's uniform. This couldn't be happening. So I guess that if he is kicked out of the university, he will be sent to war in the military. I know, Andrew said. "We'll just have to hope this is my bad luck for now. I'm eligible to reapply in 6 months. I just have to hang on." Dave had gone quieter than Terry had ever seen him. 6 months was an eternity for a healthy person to stay home with a draft coming up. "You could go to Canada," she said. So if he goes to Canada, he will run away from the military and the war. "No," Andrew said. "My family's here. My roots are here. I knew what I was doing. These are the consequences. I won't be a traitor to my country." Dave shook his head again. "It's not fair, man. Maybe a lawyer could make some more calls. This is my fault." "No," Andrew said. "I made my own call." A burst of pride filled Terry, the same pride she felt in the cafeteria when they ran into protest. But this was more. Andrew might have been spoiled. He might have had an easier time of it than her, but he had grown past that. "I love you," she said, blurting it. "She's so silly. He's gonna die in war." Andrew smiled, a real smile. "I love you too, babe. See? This day is not all bad." But it was. Small victories rarely mattered in such big wars. It was a very bad day. So as you can see so far, she was discovered by Dr. Brenner, what she did to Kali, so he's angry at her. So now he moves some influences and he's sending Andrew to war. Now, we read 6, 7, and 8 together from chapter 5. You are going to read along chapter 6, sections 1, 2, and 3. And please be ready because tomorrow I'm going to give you some questions that you have to send me on Friday. And yeah, that's it. Remember, guys, if you're not working, there's no points. Thank you for all the ones that are working, and I'm pretty sure that a 90 or an 80 or 100 is waiting for you. Depends on your effort. I hope you're okay, and remember, chapter 6, 1, 2, and 3 is what you will do together, and tomorrow I'll give you a video of questions from the chapters that we started reading together this quarter. So I hope you're okay, and I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.